A month after my daughter's wedding, the photographer called and whispered, "Sir, I noticed something strange in the pictures. Please come alone as soon as you can, and don't mention this to your daughter." Before telling you what was in the pictures, like this video. Subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments where you are listening to my story from. The phone rang just as I was lowering myself into my chair with a cup of coffee. Tuesday morning, quiet house. Financial reports spread out across my desk. The kind of calm moment I felt I'd earned after 40 years building Mercer Hardware. 3 stores around Phoenix. Solid business, solid life. I almost ignored the unfamiliar number. "Mr. Mercer?" The woman's voice shook. "This is Emily Lawson. I shot Claire's wedding last month. I need to meet you urgently and alone. Please don't tell your daughter." My fingers tightened around the phone. "What's going on?" "I can't explain this over the phone," she said. "But I found something in the photos. Something very serious." The air in my office seemed to change. Thinner somehow. "What kind of something?" "Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., my studio downtown. Please, Mr. Mercer, come alone." Before I could reply, Lisa's voice exploded from the kitchen. "Adam, I told you 3 times already, I need that car. My Honda is embarrassing. You promised you'd ask him today." Adam's laugh rumbled from the living room, some loud TV show under it. "I'll be there," I said into the phone, barely recognizing my own voice. Emily breathed out. "Thank you. I'm really sorry, Mr. Mercer. I truly am." She hung up. I stayed frozen at my desk, phone still pressed to my ear, staring at the framed photograph on the wall. Claire in her wedding gown, glowing. Daniel beside her in his tuxedo. Just 1 month ago. $65,000 I'd poured into that day. Worth every cent to see my eldest daughter happy. Something very serious in the photographs. Lisa appeared in my doorway, phone in one hand, car keys in the other. "Did you hear me? I need money for a new car. The Honda is 7 years old, and it's humiliating." I looked at my youngest daughter, 31 years old, living in my house for 4 years now. Temporary, she'd said when she moved back after her divorce. Adam had followed 6 months later. "No rent and no end date. We'll discuss it later, sweetheart." Later? "I need to go to the dealership this week. Melissa just got a new Lexus, and I can't keep showing up in that junk." I turned back to my computer screen. The numbers blurred. "Dad, are you even listening?" "Later, Lisa." She huffed and vanished. Her footsteps hammered up the stairs. A door slammed. I lifted my coffee. Cold already. Through my office window, the Paradise Valley morning stretched out bright and cloudless. July heat already rising. Everything looked normal. Everything felt wrong. The day dragged forward. I forced myself to stare at inventory reports, quarterly projections, payroll schedules. My mind kept looping back to Emily's trembling voice. The wedding had been perfect. Hadn't it? Claire had glowed. Daniel had seemed attentive. The ceremony at the Botanical Gardens, the reception at that fancy resort, everything elegant, tasteful, expensive. What could possibly be wrong with the pictures? Around noon, Adam wandered into my office without knocking. He never knocked. He just strolled in like he owned the place. "Hey, Pops. Lisa says you're being weird about the car thing." I didn't lift my eyes from the screen. I said we'll talk about it later. "Yeah, but she's pretty serious. Maybe just give her the money and keep the peace." He leaned against the doorframe, arms folded. 38 years old, no job. Living off my daughter's allowance, which meant off me. "Adam, I'm working." Sure. Just saying. Happy partner, happy life, right?" He grinned and left. Happy partner. He'd never even married Lisa. 4 years together, living in my house, and he couldn't be bothered to make it official. But he had opinions about how I should spend my money. I stood and walked to the window. Below, my pool shimmered, mostly unused. The guest house where Lisa and Adam stayed sat at the far edge of the property. Separate entrance, full kitchen, 2 bedrooms. I'd had it built imagining visiting grandchildren would use it someday. No grandchildren. Just Lisa and Adam. Afternoon bled into evening. I heated leftover pasta and ate alone at the kitchen counter while Adam occupied my living room, and Lisa video called someone upstairs, her laugh stabbing through the ceiling. At 7:30, my doorbell rang. Claire stood on my front step, perfect as always. Tailored blazer, designer jeans, that smile she'd taken from her mother. My eldest. My successful one. Marketing executive. Beautiful place. Well, high-end apartment for now. Married to Daniel Price, investment banker. Hi, Dad. She kissed my cheek and walked past me into the house. I was nearby, thought I'd stop in. Paradise Valley to her place in Scottsdale wasn't nearby, but I let it go. She settled onto my couch, crossed her legs, glanced around the living room like she was appraising it. How are you? You look tired. Long day. Business things. Eminem. She picked up a framed photo from the side table, her and Lisa as kids. Studied it. Put it back down slightly off-center. Daniel and I have been house hunting. We found the most amazing place in Scottsdale. 4 bedrooms, pool, mountain views. Absolutely perfect. I sat in the chair across from her and waited. The thing is, we need to move quickly. The market's competitive. We need help with the down payment. She smiled warmly. 40,000. You get it, right? After everything you spent on the wedding, this just finishes the picture. Helps us start our life together the right way. $40,000, spoken like she was asking to borrow my truck. Something squeezed in my chest. That hollow feeling from earlier widened. 40,000, I repeated. Is that an issue? A faint edge crept into her voice. So subtle most people would miss it. Dad, we need to move fast. The market's tough. I thought you'd want to help us set things up properly. I looked at my daughter. Really looked at her. The designer clothes, the perfect nails, the practiced warmth that didn't quite reach her eyes. Let me think about it, sweetheart. Her smile faltered for half a second. Think about it, Dad. This is important. Daniel and I need to review a few things first. She stood abruptly. Fine, but don't take too long. We can't lose this house. She grabbed her purse, kissed my cheek again, cooler this time. Love you, Dad. Call me soon. I watched her Mercedes roll away while I stood in the doorway. $40,000, delivered as if I'd already agreed, as if my money was automatically hers. Adam's laughter boomed from the living room, sports highlights flashing on my TV, his beer bottle sweating on my coffee table. I stepped back inside, but something felt shifted. The house seemed different. Or maybe, for the first time in a long time, I was seeing it clearly. My phone sat on the hall table where I'd left it. Emily's number still in the call log. Tomorrow morning, her studio. Whatever she'd found in those wedding photos, I had a feeling it would explain the heavy emptiness sitting in my chest all day. I picked up the phone and looked at Claire's last text. Thanks for understanding about the house, Dad. Love you. I hadn't agreed to anything. But she assumed. They all assumed. I left the house before Lisa woke. Didn't want questions. Didn't want Adam asking where I was going with that look he always gave, like every move I made required his approval in my own home. The drive to downtown Phoenix took 25 minutes. Tuesday morning traffic, I-51 South, then surface streets to the Arts District. Emily's studio was a renovated warehouse, her name engraved on a brass plate beside the door. My hands were steady on the steering wheel, but my mind kept replaying her voice. Something very serious. I parked across the street and sat in the truck for a moment. Whatever was inside that studio, whatever she'd uncovered, it would tie everything together. Claire's sudden push for 40,000. Daniel's polished charm. This hollow dread I'd carried since the wedding. I just didn't want to know how everything connected. The studio smelled like coffee and printer ink. Large framed photos lined the walls. Weddings, families, corporate shoots. Emily met me at the door. She was younger than I remembered, mid-40s maybe, with nervous hands and eyes filled with apology. "Mr. Mercer, thank you for coming." She locked the door behind us. "I have everything prepared in the editing room." I followed her through the gallery to a smaller space dominated by a huge monitor. Shelves stacked with wedding portfolios surrounded us. A dusty window overlooked a narrow alley. "Would you like coffee? Water?" "I'm fine." I wasn't. "Please show me." She nodded, sat at the computer, and I stood behind her chair. "Mr. Mercer," she began quietly, "I debated calling you. 4 days. But if I were in your position, I'd want to know. I didn't go digging for this. It happened by accident." My throat tightened. "Show me." Her fingers moved, and the screen filled with images from Claire's wedding. The ceremony. My daughter walking down the aisle. Daniel waiting at the altar. Smiling guests. Everything perfect. "These are the standard photos," Emily said softly. "What everyone saw." She clicked to a new folder. I arrived early and was testing exposures from the restaurant terrace, 2 hours before the ceremony. She clicked again. I was adjusting the camera through a window, trying to balance the light. And I accidentally captured this. An image opened. My hands clamped onto the back of her chair. Daniel, my son-in-law, in his half-buttoned tuxedo, pressed against a woman with red hair. Not my daughter. Kissing her. Her arms around his neck. His hands gripping her waist. Intimate. Deliberate. Not a friendly moment. Not nerves. Something deeply familiar. How long before the ceremony? My voice didn't sound like mine. "You're certain about the time?" 2 hours exactly, she said. "Here, look. The metadata is all here. Date, time, GPS coordinates." She pulled up the technical data. Rows of numbers, timestamps, location markers. I caught it by accident, but it's real. And there's more. She clicked through additional photos, different angles, same scene. Then one shot froze me. The red-haired woman's hand pressed to Daniel's chest. A gold wedding band. Diamond solitaire. "The woman," I murmured. "Do you know who she is?" Emily shook her head slowly. "I don't recognize her from the guest list." "I'm terribly sorry, Mr. Mercer." She clicked one last image. Daniel's face clearly visible. Calm, confident, completely aware. Not guilty. Not conflicted. Focused. A man who knew exactly what he was doing 2 hours before marrying my daughter. My knees wobbled. The room tilted, then steadied. "Can you prove the timing?" "Yes," she said firmly. "Prove it." She opened another window. More data, more timestamps, GPS fingerprints. Everything matched the venue, the exact hour. "This is forensic-level evidence," she added. "It would withstand any challenge." She reached into a drawer and pulled out a flash drive. "All the photos, metadata, and documentation are here. I made backups." I closed my fist around it. "You did the right thing," I said. The drive back home was a blur. My thoughts tangled around a single question. Why marry Claire at all? Why go through a $65,000 wedding when you were wrapped around another woman hours earlier? Why smile in pictures? Why say vows? What was the play? My truck led me home on autopilot. Paradise Valley streets, my driveway, my front door. The flash drive felt heavier than metal in my pocket. I stepped into the house at 11 a.m. Adam sprawled across my leather recliner, beer in hand, game show booming. He didn't even look up. "Hey, old man. Grab me another beer." From upstairs, Lisa's voice rang out. "Dad, that you? I need to talk to you about money for a spa appointment this weekend." I closed the door behind me with a small click. They thought I was the same man who'd left that morning. But something in me had cracked. My daughter's husband cheating 2 hours before the wedding. My other daughter demanding spa money. Her boyfriend ordering me around in my own home. I walked past them without answering. The flash drive burned like a coal in my pocket. Sleep didn't come. I sat in my office past midnight, the flash drive lying beside my laptop like a loaded weapon. Whenever I closed my eyes, I saw Daniel's face. Confident. Calculated. At 3 a.m., I opened my wedding expense spreadsheet. $65,000. All the invoices, receipts, payments for things Claire needed. Then I began writing on a legal pad. Numbers, dates, details that suddenly felt wrong. The gift table at the reception had overflowed. 200 guests. Most were my business connections. People who knew Claire since she was young. Cash envelopes, checks, everything for the couple. Claire had hired someone specifically to collect and catalog all the gifts. $45,000, she'd told me afterward. Then I remembered something else. My business partner, Ethan, had handed Daniel a check in person, $15,000. Daniel had slipped it into his pocket, smiling. $60,000 total. Why marry Claire at all? Why go through with a wedding if you were kissing a married woman 2 hours beforehand? Unless the marriage wasn't about Claire. Unless it was about the money. My stomach twisted. The night stretched toward dawn as the truth formed slowly in my mind. And it tasted like betrayal. The sun crept over the desert horizon as I poured another cup of coffee, though it tasted like nothing. My mind wouldn't settle. Numbers, memories, conversations. They tangled together like wire inside my chest. Somewhere in Scottsdale, Claire slept beside a man who had kissed another woman only hours before their vows. Or maybe she knew. Maybe she didn't care. Maybe this had never been about love. That thought cut deeper than the photos. By 7 a.m., I'd showered, put on khakis and a polo, and left the house before Lisa or Adam could corner me. I needed neutral ground, somewhere that still felt normal. The bank opened at 9. Downtown branch, where I'd handled business accounts for years. Professional territory. Safe territory. Patricia Williams, the branch manager, greeted me with her usual warmth. "Mr. Mercer, what brings you in today?" "I want to verify a check I wrote," I said casually. "Wedding gift for my daughter. $20,000. Just want to make sure it cleared properly." Patricia typed, scanned the screen, then nodded. "Yes, here it is." It cleared into a joint account for Daniel and Claire Price. I paused, just long enough for her to notice. "Joint account." "Yes, sir. They opened it 2 months ago. May 14th. 2 months before the wedding. Not when they got engaged. Not years ago. 2 months. They moved quickly," Patricia offered. "Young couples do." I thanked her and left. In my truck, I sat with the engine idling. May 14th. Daniel and Claire had opened a joint account just in time to funnel wedding money into it. This wasn't romance. This was planning. Coordination. Logistics. The picture was sharpening, and I hated what I was seeing. I drove home through late morning traffic, my mind thrumming. The house looked the same as always when I pulled into the garage. Adam's old, dented Camry sat in the driveway, a constant reminder of another expense I was expected to shoulder. I entered through the kitchen door and nearly made it to my office, until I heard Lisa's voice upstairs. Loud. Always loud on speakerphone. "Yeah, Dad's been acting weird lately," she said, making zero effort to lower her voice. "Different. But don't stress, sis. Ben and I can stretch this for another 6 months easy. By then he'll get tired of us and just buy us that condo." I froze mid-step. 6 months. Stretch what? Then Claire's voice came through the speaker. Cold. Crisp. Businesslike. Perfect. "I only need 2 more months of playing the happy wife. Then I file." Half the gifts are legally mine in Arizona. Daniel already agreed to a 60-40 split. It felt like someone dropped a cinder block into my stomach. Lisa laughed. And Daniel's redhead doesn't even know the plan. This is perfect. Dad's so proud of your marriage he's blind. Just keep him distracted. Make him think you need something big so when you ask for the down payment, he won't question it. Already did, Lisa bragged. Asked him for a new car yesterday. He looked annoyed, but he'll come around, she said smugly. He always does. I backed away. Slow. Silent. Measured steps all the way to my office. Door closed. Lock clicked. My hands were shaking. 2 daughters, one plotting to profit off a divorce she planned from day one. The other living in my house rent-free, using me, waiting until I bought her and her boyfriend a home. And the sons-in-law, one cheating, the other mooching. I sat heavily in my chair. Opened my laptop. Typed. Property lawyer, Phoenix, Arizona. 4th result. Gregory Holt, 25+ years experience. Real estate law, family trusts, asset protection. Earliest appointment. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. I booked it instantly. Then I leaned back, staring at the office door while my house buzzed with the plans of the people using me. They had no idea the game was about to change. Tomorrow, I would finally start protecting myself. Holt's office was on the 22nd floor of a sleek glass building downtown. I arrived 10 minutes early and sat in the parking garage sorting through the folder I'd prepared. Wedding budget spreadsheet. Flash drive from Emily. Notes I'd taken the night before. Timelines, quotes, numbers. The elevator ride felt longer than it should have. The numbers blinked past slowly, too slowly, as if the building itself wanted me to rethink everything before those doors opened. I'd weathered supplier disputes that could have sunk my business, stared down layoffs during economic downturns, negotiated contracts with men twice as ruthless as me. I'd built 3 hardware stores from the ground up with nothing but grit, stubbornness, and a refusal to fail. But none of that experience, none of those battles, felt as heavy as what waited behind Holt's office door. This wasn't business. This was blood. Family. The kind of confrontation that rewrites a man's life. The elevator chimed softly, almost apologetically, before the doors slid open. The receptionist looked up immediately. Mr. Mercer? He's ready for you. Ready. The word carried a weight I wasn't sure I was prepared to hold. Holt stood as I entered. His handshake was firm, steady, the gesture of a man accustomed to delivering bad news and solving impossible problems without blinking. He wasn't warm, but he wasn't cold either. He was precise. Exactly what I needed. Mr. Mercer, he said. Start from the beginning. I opened the folder, each page a small piece of the life I thought I understood. The wedding was a month ago, I began. I paid $65,000. This morning, the photographer showed me photos of my son-in-law with another woman. 2 hours before the ceremony. Holt's pen froze mid-stroke. I continued before the anger in my throat could choke me. Yesterday, I overheard my daughters planning to split the wedding gift money in a divorce. Their exact words, 2 more months and I file. Half the gifts are legally mine. I pushed the flash drive toward him. Affair photos. Time-stamped. Metadata included. He plugged it in. Clicked through image after image. His jaw tightened with every frame. When he finally looked up, his eyes held something sharp, professional focus mixed with a flicker of disgust. And your younger daughter? I didn't soften anything. She and her boyfriend have lived in my house for 4 years. No rent. No lease. No contributions. Their plan was to stay until I bought them a condo. Holt nodded slowly, already writing. Mr. Mercer, under Arizona law, without a rental agreement, they are guests. Not tenants. You can evict them. 30-day notice. They have no legal ground to fight it. Something shifted in my chest, not relief, but clarity. Like a fog lifting to reveal a battlefield I'd been walking blindfolded. And the rest? I asked. My assets. my business, my home. I don't want them inheriting anything more than the minimum required by law. That, Holt said, leaning back, means an irrevocable trust. He broke down the structure. How everything, my house, my business holdings, cash, savings, could be moved into a trust one controlled fully while I was alive. How, after my death, distribution would follow strict instructions no one could rewrite. How difficult it would be to challenge. Nearly impossible to overturn. The perfect shield. The wall I should have built years ago. How soon can we start? Today, Holt said. My fee is $8,500 for everything. Eviction notices, restructuring your will, trust creation. I'd already lost more than that funding my daughter's delusions, their manipulations, their entitlement. That's acceptable. 40 minutes later, I signed the engagement agreement. My hand didn't shake. Not once. Then Holt looked at me with the blunt honesty of someone who'd seen this exact scenario more times than he cared to. Mr. Mercer, what you're doing, it will likely end your relationship with your daughters permanently. I didn't hesitate. They ended that relationship the moment they turned me into a bank account. Holt nodded once. Then we proceed. And just like that, something inside me shifted. A sense of power I hadn't felt in years ran through me, a quiet, controlled current. I walked out of that office with more than paperwork. I walked out with a folder full of legal ammunition. A fortress made of signatures and statutes. Protection no one could twist into guilt. It felt like holding a weapon I'd forgotten I had the right to wield. The sky outside was warm, streaked with sunset. I drove home in silence, gripping the wheel tighter than usual, rehearsing what needed to happen next. Each turn of the road felt like a step toward a line I couldn't uncross. When I walked into the house, there they were, Lisa and Adam, sprawled across my living room like royalty lounging in a kingdom they hadn't earned. Shoes on the table, TV blaring, snacks everywhere. Laughing. Relaxed. Comfortable. They had no idea. Not a single clue that the ground beneath them had already begun to crack. That a countdown was ticking above their heads. That their 30 days had already started the moment I walked into Holt's office. Adam looked up briefly. "Oh hey, Pops. We were thinking," Lisa cut in. "Dad, can we talk about the car again?" Their voices blended into noise. Background hum. Static. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't listening. I wasn't bending. I wasn't theirs to manipulate. They had no idea what was coming. No idea that the world they'd comfortably built on my back was about to collapse. But they were about to find out. That Friday morning, the envelopes arrived. Thick, weighty, sealed with authority, Holt's firm stamped neatly in the upper corner like a quiet warning. I placed them on my desk and stared at them for hours, the afternoon sun creeping across the room as if waiting for me to decide whether I was truly ready to cross the line I had drawn. 2 envelopes. 2 eviction notices. Legally airtight. 30 days to vacate. 30 days until my house finally became mine again. 30 days until the truth I'd ignored for years could no longer be avoided. By evening, decision settled into my bones like something inevitable. Something overdue. From the living room, Adam's voice surged, loud, animated, dripping with confidence he had not earned. "Listen, babe, I'm telling you, craft breweries are exploding everywhere right now. Phoenix is the perfect spot. 30 grand. Tops. Your dad will get his money back in no time. Easy investment." Lisa giggled, that entitled little laugh she'd perfected. "He'll do it. He always does. Just pitch it as helping family and he'll write the check before dessert." I picked up the envelopes. Walked down the hallway. Every step felt deliberate, heavy, final. In the living room, they sat on my couch, legs stretched out, chips spilled across the cushions, shoes on the coffee table, my TV turned almost painfully loud. They looked like they owned the place. They didn't. I stepped into the room. They both glanced up, expecting nothing, expecting everything. I set the envelopes down on the table between their soda cans and empty plates. "What's this?" Lisa asked, still smiling as if the world bent to her convenience. Dad, we're talking about Ben's brewery idea. You didn't hear? Open it, I said. Something in my voice made her pause. She tore open the envelope. Her face drained. Adam leaned forward, grabbed his own, ripped it open. His expression twisted instantly. Eviction notice? Lisa whispered, voice trembling. Dad, what is this? Adam stood, looming over me with false bravado. Have you completely lost it, old man? You can't just kick us out. This is our home. This is my house, I said evenly. And you are being legally removed. 30 days. Lisa's tears started instantly. Flawless, practiced, calculated. Dad, how can you do this? I'm your daughter. Adam stepped closer, chest puffed up, fists balling. We're family, he snarled. Everyone will hear about this. You'll look like a heartless monster. The notice is legal, I repeated. 30 days. His jaw clenched so hard the muscle twitched. You'll regret this, he spat. I didn't respond, didn't react, didn't break. I simply turned and walked away. Behind me, their voices exploded. Screams, accusations, threats, pleas, a hurricane of manipulation they had relied on for years. But this time, their noise didn't reach me. I let it wash against the walls, powerless now that I'd stopped listening. For the first time in a long, long time, the axis had shifted. The power they'd drained from me, the control they'd wrapped around me like vines, I had taken it all back with 2 pieces of paper. And as their voices echoed behind me, rising in panic, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: certainty. The kind that comes when a man finally stops being afraid of losing what was never love in the first place. 30 days. The countdown had begun, and they had no idea how much more was coming. 10 minutes later, their yelling thinned into frantic whispers, sharp, hissed fragments slicing through the silence of the hallway. Then, as predictably as sunrise, Lisa's voice blasted through the house at full volume. She never understood the concept of privacy. She needed the whole world to hear her suffering. He served us eviction papers. 30 days, she cried into the phone, sobs loud, dramatic, perfectly timed. A pause. Then Claire's voice crackled through the speaker. Tight, controlled, sharpened with irritation. I don't know what he's thinking, she snapped. But don't panic. Ben and I will come tomorrow with Daniel. We'll talk sense into him. Talk sense. That meant one thing. Pressure. Manipulation. A coordinated ambush disguised as concern. Adam's voice joined in, lower, colder. He won't get away with this. We're not letting him do it. He'll regret it. Regret? My only regret was not doing this 4 years ago, before they'd turned my home into a parasite's nest. I shut my office door, not slamming it, just a gentle click that symbolized something far heavier. I sat at my desk and opened Holt's email. Trust documents halfway finalized. Asset transfers moving forward. My financial fortress rising brick by brick, signature by signature. Every line was protection, against them, against their plans, against the future they thought they were entitled to. I pulled out a notepad, began writing. Their reactions. Their threats. Lisa's exaggerated sobbing. Adam's aggression. Claire's calculated strategy to handle me. If they tried anything legal, and I had no doubt they would, I wanted everything documented. Every word. Every manipulation. Every attempt to paint themselves as victims. My pen moved across the page with calm precision, emotion stripped away. Facts. Dates. Quotes. Evidence. Somewhere around the 2nd year of Lisa and Adam living here, rent-free, contribution-free, responsibility-free, I had stopped being a father. I'd become a wallet with a pulse. An ATM that never declined. Not anymore. Not ever again. Saturday morning. Day 1 after service. When I came downstairs, the performance had already begun. Lisa lay sprawled across the couch, wrapped in her robe like a tragic heroine in a soap opera. One hand pressed dramatically to her forehead. "Dad," she whimpered weakly. I can't get up. My heart is racing. The stress from this eviction is making me sick. I think you should call a doctor. Adam hovered behind her like a guard dog, arms crossed, expression molded into concern. But his eyes, those gave him away. They weren't worried. They were calculating. Both waited for my reaction. For guilt. For sympathy. For weakness. I stepped around them without a glance. "There's cold medicine in the cabinet," I said, heading toward the kitchen. Silence. Then the familiar sound of her frustration. Sharp breathing, a dramatic exhale that was supposed to carve guilt into my spine. It didn't. I poured myself coffee, carried it back to my office, and closed the door. Peace reclaimed 1 inch at a time. Sunday. Day 2. Adam cornered me in the garage just as I was grabbing my keys. He positioned himself in the doorway, blocking the exit as if his presence alone could intimidate me into surrender. "You know what people will say about this," he growled, stepping closer. "That you kicked out your own daughter. Your pregnant daughter." Lisa wasn't pregnant. It was another lie tossed onto the pile. "Your business partners," he continued. "Your church friends, they'll all hear about what kind of man you are." I checked my watch like he wasn't even speaking. "You have 26 days left," I said quietly. "Move." He didn't. For a moment, I thought he might actually try something. We stood there, 10 seconds, 20, 30, his jaw tight, breath heavy, fists forming and unforming. Finally, he stepped aside, muttering curses under his breath. I walked past him, got into my truck, and drove to the hardware store. I stayed there for 3 hours, walking aisles, checking inventory, speaking with managers, anything to avoid the toxic air back home. When I returned, the house was quiet. Too quiet. A handwritten envelope sat on the kitchen counter. My name on the front. In Adam's sloppy, barely legible handwriting. Proposal. I opened it. 2 pages. A business plan, written like a middle school assignment. New brewery startup. Initial capital required. $50,000. Lisa and Adam remain in residence. Pay nominal rent. $500 per month. Return investment in 5 years. Promise of strong family unity, strong family unity. That line nearly made me laugh. I read the whole thing from top to bottom. Not once did my pulse change. Then I walked into the living room. They were waiting, Lisa perched on the edge of the couch, eyes wide, hands clasped, rehearsed tears glistening. Adam leaned back, arms spread in confidence, as if he just offered me the investment opportunity of a lifetime. I placed the papers back on the table. "No," Lisa's voice cracked instantly. "Dad, we're trying to compromise." "No," I didn't explain. Didn't soften my tone. Didn't offer reassurance. I simply returned to my office and shut the door. Behind it, I heard their frustration build, raised voices, accusations, whispers of new plans they thought I couldn't hear. They still didn't understand. The clock was ticking. And nothing, tears, threats, manipulation, guilt, was going to stop what was coming next. Monday and Tuesday bled together in a predictable, suffocating loop. Lisa drifted between theatrical tears and explosive tantrums, crying in one moment, slamming doors the next, her emotions shifting like stage cues. Adam alternated between thinly veiled threats and sugary, insincere politeness. 1 hour he tried intimidation. The next he forced a smile as if he could charm me out of my own decisions. I ignored them both. Work, home, office. Quiet meals alone. Their chaos became background noise, static behind a closed door. But beneath the surface, something was shifting. Tension tightening. Pressure building. They weren't giving up, they were regrouping. And by Wednesday, I felt the storm coming before it arrived. That evening, the front door swung open without a knock. Claire stepped inside with grocery bags looped over her arms like she owned the place. She'd already called earlier, her voice clipped and authoritative. "Dad, we're coming over for dinner. We need to talk as a family." Not a request. A command. Behind her came Daniel, my son-in-law, smiling too broadly, too warmly, the expression of a man convinced he could steer the night in his favor. He greeted me like he was hosting my dinner in my house. Lisa appeared moments later, descending the stairs in full makeup, suddenly revitalized, miraculously cured from the stress illness she dramatically staged 2 days earlier. Adam followed, posture straight, voice calm, acting like a man who hadn't threatened me in the garage that very weekend. A staged intervention. An ambush dressed up as a family gathering. They took over the kitchen immediately. Pots clanged, cabinets opened, spices scattered across the counter. They moved through my home like a unit, coordinated, rehearsed, confident, whispering to each other, checking their phones, planning. I watched them cook in my kitchen, setting my table, assigning seats like it was their house. 5 plates. 5 agendas. Not one of them had anything to do with me. When we finally sat, the tension was thick enough to taste. Claire leaned forward first, the designated spokesperson. "Dad," she began, voice soft with manufactured concern, "managing a big house like this must be exhausting. It's too much work for one person. Have you thought about something smaller? A condo, maybe?" Her phrasing was gentle. Her eyes were not. Daniel took over seamlessly, like they'd practiced in the car. "The market is fantastic right now. Selling this property could set the whole family up. Everyone could benefit." Everyone. Meaning them. Lisa jumped in next, tone saccharine sweet. "Dad, we're just worried about you. You shouldn't be alone in such a big place." Not one of them cared if I was lonely. They cared about what the house would sell for. They cared about equity, not well-being. And Adam, silent, watching me closely, waited like a wolf for the perfect moment to push harder. The truth clicked into place with chilling clarity. This wasn't concern. This wasn't care. This wasn't family. This was strategy. They wanted the house sold. The proceeds divided. My life's work liquidated into their next chapter. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Sharp, steady, unquestionable. I set my fork down slowly. The entire table watched. A hush fell over the room. They thought they were steering the conversation, guiding me toward a decision, cornering me into surrender. They had no idea the conversation they expected was not the one they were about to get. "I'm not selling my house." Claire laughed lightly, thin, sharp. "No one is pressuring you, Dad." I stood. "Thank you for dinner. I'm done for the night." I walked to my office. Door closed. Behind me, voices erupted, angry, frantic. I picked up my phone and dialed Holt's direct line. "I need to see you tonight," I said. "Urgent." "I'll be in the office in 30 minutes, he replied. It was time to lock everything in place. Holt's office glowed like a beacon on the 22nd floor when I arrived close to 11 p.m. The lobby was empty, silent in that eerie way only corporate buildings achieve at night. The air carried a faint hum of the AC, steady and cold, as if the entire place was holding its breath. The elevator doors slid open, and Holt was already there waiting, sleeves rolled up, glasses low on his nose, paperwork under one arm. He looked less like a lawyer at that moment, and more like a surgeon preparing for emergency extraction. "They're coordinating," I said as we walked down the hall toward his office. My voice felt heavier than usual. "They tried an intervention tonight. Claire led it. They're pushing me to sell the house." Holt didn't break stride. "Then we accelerate the trust." He unlocked his office door, flicked on the lights, and the room brightened with a soft buzz. Inside, he moved with practiced efficiency, spreading documents across the conference table, beneficiary change forms, trust outlines, asset transfer authorizations. Each page felt like a piece of armor, chain-linked to the next, forming something impenetrable. A legal fortress. "They're removed entirely from your accounts," Holt said, sliding the first set of papers toward me. "No access, no claims, no future leverage. Your assets will move under irrevocable trust control. They won't be able to touch a cent." "How fast can this happen?" I asked. "Starting tomorrow," Holt replied. "House, business, retirement accounts, savings, Everything transferred within 2 to 3 weeks. The trust becomes the gatekeeper. You stay in control while you're alive. After that, only the instructions you set. They can't argue, rewrite, or challenge it. Do it. I didn't hesitate. Not anymore. Holt handed me the electronic pad for signatures. Page after page. Line after line. Witness signatures. Digital stamps. Each stroke of my pen felt like reclaiming a part of myself they'd worn down. By midnight, the groundwork wasn't just laid, it was cemented. A foundation stronger than any of their schemes. When I drove home, the neighborhood was asleep. The sky deepened into a shade that felt almost protective. But the moment I stepped inside my house, that illusion cracked. The living room lamp was still on. The faint smell of wine lingered. Empty glasses sat abandoned on the coffee table like fingerprints left at a crime scene. They'd waited up. Or argued. Or plotted. Probably all three. Lisa and Adam's door was shut, but the faint vibration of angry whispers leaked under it. They were scrambling now, like rats sensing the ship was no longer theirs to chew through. I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Claire. No voicemails. She knew something had shifted at dinner. She felt a version of me she hadn't seen in years, a man who wasn't bending, who wasn't funding, who wasn't rescuing. Her silence said everything. They were afraid. Good. For the first time in years, the leverage wasn't theirs. It was mine. 2 weeks passed. 15 days left on the eviction clock, each one ticking louder, sharper, more urgent. I could feel the tension building in the house like heat trapped under a metal roof. Doors slamming. Sudden laughter. Forced politeness. Whispered arguments behind closed doors. But I didn't respond. I didn't engage. I didn't give them a single inch. Because I was preparing for something else. The staged final meeting. The dining room looked almost elegant that night. My best china placed carefully at each spot, cloth napkins folded neatly, polished silverware glinting under the chandelier's warm light. Everything perfectly arranged. The kind of table setting that belonged to celebrations, not confrontations. At my seat, a single manila folder lay face down. Inside it, 8 glossy photographs. Daniel kissing the red-haired woman on the terrace. Hands tangled in her hair. His suit half-buttoned. Her wedding ring catching the light. His expression unmistakably intimate. Time-stamped. Geotagged. Metadata verified. Undeniable. While they were planning their ambushes, their guilt trips, their financial heists, I had collected the truth. Not the emotional kind they weaponized, but evidence carved into digital stone. This wasn't just a confrontation. It was a reckoning. Soon, they would walk into that dining room expecting another attempt to manipulate me, another performance, another tactic, another round of family concern. They had no idea the script had already been rewritten. And when that folder opened, everything they pretended to be, loyal daughters, caring spouses, responsible adults, would shatter in an instant. They had 15 days left. But after tonight, their timeline, their confidence, their control, would start collapsing long before the eviction date arrived. They arrived one by one, pretending it was coincidence, pretending they hadn't coordinated their entrance down to the minute. But the moment they gathered in the living room, clustered together, whispering urgently, glancing toward the dining room like conspirators, the truth was unmistakable. They weren't here for dinner. They were here for a takeover. A last-ditch coup. I called them to the table. Chairs slid. Silverware clinked. And the tension, thick, metallic, wrapped around the room like barbed wire. For 10 long minutes, no one spoke. Forks scraped plates. Breaths were shallow. Lisa kept darting anxious looks at Adam, waiting for her cue. Claire tugged at her blouse again and again, nerves leaking through her practiced composure. Daniel stared at the floor, his knee bouncing beneath the table, guilt radiating off him like heat. They weren't eating. They were bracing. Finally, Claire cleared her throat, stepping into her role like the elected spokesperson of the conspiracy. "Dad," she said gently, "we've all been talking. The situation with Lisa, It's stressful for everyone. Maybe it's time to simplify things. Simplify. Their favorite word for taking everything I own. Daniel leaned forward, wearing that diplomatic expression he used when closing sales. We can help you transition, he said smoothly. Sell the house. Downsize. Share the proceeds. Everyone benefits. Everyone except me. Lisa softened her voice to a trembling whisper, the false sweetness almost impressive in its craftsmanship. Dad, a condo would be easier. A fresh start. Less work for you. There it was. The pitch. The plan. The motive behind every tear, whisper, and intervention. They wanted the house. They wanted the money. They wanted to carve up my life's work like vultures circling a carcass. I set my fork down. Slowly. Deliberately. Their eyes tracked the movement, sudden unease crawling across their faces. Without a word, I reached for the manila folder beside me. Before we continue, I said, my voice steady, cold, you should see something. I slid the folder toward Claire. The room held its breath. She opened it, frowned. Then her expression fractured, shock, disbelief, fury blending into one cold, rigid mask. She flipped to the next photo. Then the next. Then the final page, the metadata, timestamps, GPS coordinates indisputable as scripture. Her voice sharpened to a blade. Where did you get these? Daniel's face drained to ash. The color vanished from his cheeks. He swallowed hard. I can explain. I didn't even look at him. And, I continued, I overheard a conversation between you and Lisa. The air stilled. I spoke the words slowly, clearly, each syllable landing like a hammer on bone. 2 more months and I file. Half the gifts are legally mine. Daniel already agreed to a 60-40 split. Lisa slapped a hand over her mouth, her eyes wide with panic. Adam lurched halfway out of his seat, outrage flaring in his voice. You spy on us? You had no right. Sit. One word. Level. Unflinching. He sat. Instantly. Fear, not respect, moved him. I looked at each of them, one by one, letting the silence stretch until the room felt ready to snap. I've created an irrevocable trust, I said. My house, my business, my savings, every asset I own, is protected. After my death, the only thing you'll receive is the legal minimum. Nothing more. Claire's composure shattered. You can't do this, she shouted, pushing up from her seat. We're your family. I stood too, my chair scraping back with a slow, controlled sound that seemed louder than any scream. Lisa and Adam have 15 days to move out, I said, each word carved from stone. This conversation is over. Claire lunged to her feet, voice cracking with rage and desperation. You're destroying this family. I paused at the doorway. Didn't turn around. I'm not destroying anything, I said. I'm protecting myself from people who saw me as a resource, not a father. Then I walked out. Behind me, silence lasted barely 2 heartbeats before the explosion began. Claire screaming. Daniel stammering excuses. Lisa sobbing hysterically. Adam unleashing curses and threats like a broken fire hydrant. But their noise couldn't reach me anymore. I locked my office door. Sat down. Listened to chaos unravel in the dining room like a storm finally losing its grip. None of it mattered. The photos were on the table. Their plans were exposed. The trust was nearly finalized. 15 days left. After that, they'd be out of my house, out of my finances, out of my future. And for the first time in years, I knew exactly how this story ended. They just didn't know it yet. Holt's office, the next morning, 9 a.m. He brought in a colleague, estate expert Julia Park, to finalize the trust. Everything is ready, she said, laying 50 pages before me. Sign here, and here, initials here. This transfers your house. This transfers business ownership. These accounts move under trustee control. And they can't challenge it? I asked. Not successfully, she replied. Irrevocable trusts are extremely difficult to overturn. You have full lifetime control. They get nothing beyond what you specify. I signed every page. When it was done, Julia stacked the papers neatly. Congratulations, Mr. Mercer, she said. Your life's work is now protected. I drove home lighter than air. The next few days were psychological warfare. Day 2. My coffee maker was smashed on the kitchen floor. Adam sat at the table, arms crossed. Oh, he said lazily. Slipped from my hand. I swept it up without comment. 11 days left. Day 4. Lisa cried dramatically over the back fence to Mrs. Patterson. He's throwing us out. We have nowhere to go. I don't know what's wrong with him anymore. The neighbor touched her arm awkwardly, clearly uncomfortable. I'm sure you and your father will sort this out. No, we wouldn't. Day 7. Claire arrived with a woman holding a clipboard. Dad, this is Dr. Palmer, a psychologist. We think you need help. Sudden decisions like this can indicate. Out, I said. Both of them left. Day 10. My office door was slightly open when I returned home. The trust documents I'd left on the desk were moved, only a fraction of an inch, but enough. They had searched my office. They knew the trust was real. Lisa was unusually quiet that night. Adam kept pacing. Day 12. Lisa knocked on my office door, alone. No makeup, eyes red, voice trembling. Dad, I've been thinking. Ben's been a bad influence. I'm sorry. I can change. Please forgive me. Please don't go through with the eviction. A flawless performance. But I'd seen the rehearsals. If you were truly sorry, I said, you would have come without expecting anything in return. Her face dropped. The tears stopped instantly. Voice hardened. Fine. Be alone. Don't expect us to care what happens to you. I didn't flinch. 8 days left. She stormed upstairs, yelling at Adam that I wasn't falling for it. 8 days. Then freedom. The countdown was almost over. Day 30. I pulled into my driveway at exactly 10 a.m. The sheriff's vehicle rolled in behind me, right on schedule. Holt's car arrived seconds later. All three of us stepped out together. Synchronized, deliberate. Deputy Marquez shook my hand. Professional, calm, mid-40s with the posture of someone who had done this 1,000 times. Mr. Mercer, ready to proceed? Yes. Holt adjusted his briefcase. Everything is in order. Notice was served legally. 30 days have passed. If they refuse to leave, it becomes criminal trespass. We walked to my front door. My house. My property. But I knocked anyway. 3 firm knocks. Silence. Then footsteps. Adam's voice from inside, barking. Go away. You can't do this. Marquez stepped forward, voice steady and loud enough to shake the windows. Sir, this is the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. Open the door now, or we will open it for you. You are trespassing on private property. A long pause. Whispers. Rapid. Panicked. Then the door cracked open. Lisa stood there with swollen eyes and forced defiance. Marquez pushed the door wide and entered. Holt and I followed. The living room looked like a garbage heap, clothes everywhere, trash stacked on my coffee table, pizza boxes, beer cans, blankets on the floor. And not a single box packed. You folks weren't preparing to leave, were you? Marquez asked dryly. Lisa choked. 2 hours? We need more time. This is impossible. You've had 30 days, ma'am. His tone didn't waver. You now have 2 hours to gather personal belongings. Clothing, hygiene items, essential papers. Anything else must stay. Adam stormed in from the kitchen like a man possessed. Unshaven, eyes bloodshot, fury radiating off him in thick waves. This is illegal, he shouted, voice cracking with rage. We have rights. He expected Holt to flinch. He expected the deputy to soften. He expected someone to take his side. But Holt didn't even look up from his clipboard. "You have no rights to this property," he said calmly. "No lease, no rent payments, no written or verbal agreement. You've overstayed as guests. And today is the final day." Adam's rage flickered into disbelief, then desperation. He turned to me as if I were his last lifeline. "You're really doing this?" he growled. "To your own daughter?" I met his glare with steady calm, a calm I'd earned. "You did this to yourselves." Lisa's sobbing renewed instantly, face buried in her hands. Adam muttered curses, low, sharp, bitter, under his breath. Deputy Marquez stepped forward, voice firm, tone leaving no room for negotiation. 2 hours begins now." The next 2 hours were chaos incarnate. Lisa ran around stuffing clothes into trash bags, all while wailing between breaths as if the house itself were collapsing around her. Every few minutes she'd pause dramatically, waiting for me to break, to crumble, to offer mercy. I didn't. Adam slammed drawers open and shut, tossing shirts and chargers and crumpled papers into a duffel bag with enough force to rattle the walls. He muttered nonstop, "He's insane, out of his mind. After everything we've done." Not once did he mention rent. Groceries. Bills. Responsibility. At one point, Lisa gave her final performance, standing in the doorway of the living room like a tragic actress under a spotlight. "Dad," she cried, tears flowing on command, "you're going to die alone. You'll need us someday. You can't cut out your own family." I didn't even turn my head. Marquez remained everywhere at once, calm, steady, authoritative. He monitored every movement, ensuring they took only what belonged to them. No furniture. No appliances. No small, accidental thefts. His presence made the rules feel carved in stone. When their bags were finally shoved into their dented Camry, overstuffed, chaotic, and barely held together, Lisa turned to me for one last attempt. Her eyes were red, her face streaked with tears, her voice trembling from the weight of a reality she hadn't believed was possible. "You'll regret this," she screamed. I met her gaze, steady and unshaken. "I won't." And I meant every syllable. They drove away, the car shrinking down the road, 2 silhouettes dissolving into the afternoon heat. And the moment their vehicle disappeared over the horizon, a shift rippled through the house. The air felt different. Lighter. Quieter. Mine. Deputy Marquez stepped forward and handed me the final documents. "They're officially out," he said. "If they return without your consent, call us immediately. No uncertainty. No hesitation. Protection locked in place." Holt offered his hand next, his grip firm, his voice steady with respect. "Good job, Adam. Most people can't see this through. You did." When they left, I walked through the house, slowly, deliberately. Every room felt different. The living room was still, the kitchen peaceful, the hallway silent. Even the dust floating in sunbeams felt calmer, undisturbed. 4 years. 4 years of demands, disrespect, entitlement. 4 years of manipulation disguised as love. Gone. All of it. Gone in a single afternoon. That evening, just as the house settled into its new quiet, my phone rang. Claire. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over decline. For a moment, I considered letting it go to voicemail. But something inside me, maybe closure, maybe curiosity, made me answer. "Yes," I said. Her voice hit me like ice water. "I hope you're happy," she hissed. "You destroyed this family. Everything we had. Everything we were. Was it worth it?" My eyes drifted to an old family photo on the shelf. A younger me. 2 little girls with wide smiles. A time when love was real. Not currency, not leverage, not a strategy. I took a slow breath. "I didn't destroy anything," I said quietly. "I stopped letting you destroy me." Silence. Then, faint, almost imperceptible, a crack in her voice. And I knew she finally realized something they had all refused to see, The man they had controlled for years no longer existed. "You've changed. I don't even know who you are anymore," Claire said, her voice shaking with anger, fear, and something else she would never admit, loss of control. "I'm the same person," I replied quietly. "I just stopped pretending I didn't notice being used." For a moment, nothing. Then a sharp inhale, an emotional flinch she couldn't hide. "You'll need us eventually," she snapped. And without waiting for a reply, she hung up. I set the phone down gently. She was wrong. I had needed them once, needed the idea of family, of connection, of loyalty. But the people standing in front of me now weren't the ones I raised. They weren't daughters. They were users. Opportunists. Actors who had rehearsed the roles of family so long they thought they were entitled to the stage. But the show was over. And I knew with absolute certainty I would never need them again. 3 days later, a text came from an unknown number. "Daniel. Horace, I saw the photos. I know you know. Look, Claire knew about my relationship too. This whole marriage was an arrangement. We're getting divorced anyway. I'm asking you to stay out of it. I can make it worth your while. $10K if you don't interfere." I stared at the message. Just once. That's all it took. Then I deleted it. Blocked the number. He actually thought I would accept hush money from the man who cheated on my daughter, the same daughter who had conspired with him to scam me out of wedding gifts. Both of them partners in financial schemes, manipulation, deception. Nothing about their life together had been real. Not the vows, not the gifts, not the love. Only greed. Let them destroy each other. They no longer had access to me. No leverage. No influence. No doorway left unlocked. Their chaos would now eat itself alive. 3 weeks after the eviction, I sat on my terrace with my morning coffee, the sun rising over Paradise Valley in warm, golden sheets. The air felt different, lighter, almost new. Silence stretched comfortably around me, no footsteps upstairs, no shouting from the living room, no slamming doors. The peace was almost startling. For the first time in 4 years, the house was mine. Not shared. Not invaded. Not drained. Mine. The coffee maker worked every morning without being broken out of spite. The remote stayed exactly where I left it. The fridge held only the food I bought for myself. No missing groceries, no empty containers shoved to the back. The laundry stayed folded. The air smelled clean. Small miracles. Real freedom. On Wednesday, I had my guitar lessons, something I'd always wanted to learn but never had the space, time, or peace for. On Friday, I volunteered at the senior center, repairs, electrical fixes, helping people who actually appreciated the help. Next Thursday, I had a scheduled business inspection, routine, productive, grounded. My life wasn't filled with demands anymore. It wasn't shaped by guilt, fear, or manipulation. It was shaped around what I wanted. Finally. Then the mail arrived. A thick envelope. Holt's office. I opened it carefully, feeling the weight of it before even seeing what was inside. Final trust documents. A single summary page was clipped on top. "Mr. Mercer, all transfers have been completed. Your estate is fully protected." I read it twice, then set it down on the table. A long breath left my chest, a release I hadn't known I'd been holding. 4 decades. 4 decades of work, savings, sacrifices, sweat, late nights, early mornings. Protected. Shielded. Locked in a structure no one could manipulate, drain, or claim. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the peace of that settle inside me. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. "This is Mercer." A soft, hesitant voice came through. "Mr. Mercer, this is Emily Lawson, the photographer. I hope you don't mind me calling." Emily. The woman whose honesty had detonated the first cracks in the illusion I'd been living in. The woman who had shown me the truth when everyone else fed me lies. "No," I said, my voice softening. "I'm glad you did. I just wanted to check on you. I think about that day often. I hope I did the right thing. You did, I told her. You absolutely did. There was a silence, gentle, not awkward. Then softly, how are things now? I looked out at the horizon, the warm gold spilling across the valley. The quiet, the life I had rebuilt piece by piece. Better than they've been in years, I said. Truly better. I heard a smile in her voice. I'm happy to hear that. I hesitated, feeling something unusual stir in my chest, something I hadn't felt in years. A thought. A question. A possibility so quiet it almost didn't belong to me anymore. Then, surprising even myself, I said, Emily, are you free sometime next week? The line went quiet. Not tense, stunned, warm. And then softly, I'd like that. Very much. The horizon glowed brighter. A new chapter, unforced, honest, real, waited just beyond it. Emily, would you like to get coffee sometime? I'd like to thank you properly. She laughed gently. I'd really like that. How about next week? Next week. A new beginning. Perfect. We hung up. I sat there, coffee cooling in my hands, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Possibility. My daughters might call again. They might beg, demand, threaten. I wouldn't answer. For the first time in my life, I chose myself. Peace. Independence. Freedom. The next chapter was mine to write. The next chapter was mine to write. Coffee with someone who didn't want anything except conversation. Guitar music made for my own enjoyment. Repairs done because I chose to help, not because someone demanded it. A life lived on my terms. Justice wasn't revenge. It was protection. It was boundaries. It was saying no when no was the only sane answer. I'd saved myself, and that was worth everything. If you have loved this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.